Since returning from my hiatus, I put a lot of thought into what the first video on my channel should be. Trust me, I've got like 4 different scripts I could drop right now. But this channel was always meant to be about highly edited deep dives into storytelling in video games, so I decided I'd release one of those. Then I had to pick one. At first I thought I would start with the 1.0 quest, but that video would honestly have been pretty negative. I could have picked 2.4, but my thoughts on that quest might be a bit too controversial for a comeback video. No. I wanted to kick things off with a video celebrating one of the quests that Wuthering does well, which is why I chose the Camellia Companion quest. But apparently I haven't unlocked that on my second account, so I had to choose another one. The Encore Companion quest is, to date, the only quest in the game I've ever scored a 10 out of 10. Some quests come close. 2.2's main story earned an 8, Camellia's Companion quest got a 9, but this one was something special. After versions 1.0 and 1.1, I actually stopped playing Wuthering Waves, because I wanted Camellia and, well, you know the saying, lead me not into temptation. So when I returned at the tail end of 1.3, I had a bit of catching up to do. The Black Shores main quest and the Camellia Companion quest showed me that the devs had stumbled into some good form. But it was Encore's quest that made me realize that I was playing something truly special. People often say that Wuthering Waves had an upturn in quality after the Renacita update, but I don't think most players realize the truth. The game was already spectacular, at least from a story perspective, months before that. This video is the first piece of proof on this channel that will show that. So sit down, get comfy, and for the next few minutes I'm going to walk you through a quest that even Renacita hasn't managed to top. Where do we start? A storytelling session in the middle of Jinzhou hosted by Encore. Her friends have gathered, and among them Encore is clearly the oldest, and she has taken a sort of nurturing big sister role. It's a far cry from what we're familiar with. You know, the kid that Alta has been babysitting, but Encore retains her typical whimsical dreamlike view.
So, wanna hear Encore's stories? If you enjoy stories, Rover, you might even get to go inside one. What do you say, Woolies?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, and neither does Rover, but they up to play along. And obviously you do too, since you've decided to do this quest. You're in for a storytelling session, so settle down, grab some popcorn, and prepare to have a glance into Encore's world. No, really, that's where she takes you. The Woolly Kingdom. Brother, are you joking? We closed our eyes for 2 seconds and Encore immediately took the opportunity to hit us with a domain expansion. What on earth? Let's have a look at what my insights were into this section when I went into this world. Alright, so yeah, I don't really have any comments so far. I wouldn't even say it's a slow start, I don't know. I think since it's not blind and I know that the story starts with Ying, obviously I can't lie, I'm kind of bored. But at this stage I assume... Yeah, not my most insightful take. I didn't catch what the point of this was the first time around. Or the second for that matter. It felt like it was a quick way to let us know that Encore can do domain expansions, so that the resolution to this quest doesn't come out of nowhere. But that's because the impact of this moment is felt on a subconscious level. You see, the moment that Encore led us here, all bets were off. Encore said from the get-go that Cosmos and Cloudy were from the Woolly Kingdom, but that was just her active imagination. She's a ventriloquist and her companions literally have her voice. It's symbolic. Encore said that we get to go into a story mere moments earlier, and even Rover assumed it was a metaphor of some sort. And let's pull up her resonance evaluation. The sheep-like entities that accompany her are considered to be manifestations of her imagination and psychological state. No one believes Encore when she says these things, but actually, every crazy thing she said since she's met us, she was telling the truth. Completely vindicated in this moment. Shame on us, honestly, for not believing her when she said her cutesy dolls came from Fantasyland. Shows what we know. The Woolly Kingdom is right in front of us. But why didn't I realize this before? Why didn't it hit me the first time, or even the second? I think it's because the idea of a tiny kid that is so stupidly powerful, even to an apocalyptic degree, doesn't carry the same irony as it used to. We've seen this trope so many times. I can name someone that fits the bill from Genshin, Fullmetal Alchemist, and even Dragon Ball Super. When she was telling us all those stories, I believed her immediately. This moment didn't come as a shock in the slightest. Honestly, I don't think I would have ever figured out this moment's narrative significance if I hadn't gotten bored during my second playthrough. I got so bored I had to stop and ask myself, why? To anyone that believed Encore, this is boring, because the story is at a standstill until we leave. But here's the thing. Can you say with confidence that most players took Encore at face value? I don't think the writers could, so they needed to prove it to us. Exposition dumps are universally panned, but they're done because they work. Sometimes you just need to get the information across. I can't be mad at it. It does the job. Encore walks into the Woolly Kingdom as a kid with a hyperactive imagination and leaves as Encore, domain expansion extraordinaire, world ender, reality warper, the end of all. Logic doesn't apply to this one. She can do the impossible, so now she needs a space to perform her magic. But first, let me tell you the story of the Woolly Warrior. It's very simple.
Gateway of Wishes. All you need to do is follow this path and collect 3 relics. Yes! The first relic is the Sword of Courage. To obtain it, you'll have to face all of your challenges head-on. Be careful. Next, the Shield of Faith. This is a tricky one, but so long as you believe in yourself, you'll find it eventually after searching every nook and cranny. And finally, the Wreath of Hope, a crown of flowers that can reflect a person's thoughts. Never withers, forever blossoming. Once you've gathered all 3 relics, the Gateway of Wishes will open before you.
Seems simple enough, but Encore stops the story before the ending. After telling her story, Encore decides to ask around and see what the other kids thought of it. And this is where the quest truly begins. And it begins with one of the strongest scenes in the game.
Yes. Hello. You're here to ask about my thoughts on the story, right? I actually have something to ask you.
Ask away! Encore will answer anything!
Okay. Is it true that after gathering all 3 relics, you can have your wishes come true?
Yeah, it's what it says in the story.
I'd like you to see this.
There. An area on the map is circled out with a sword-shaped sign on it. Wait. Could this be a treasure map? That sign must be the Sword of Courage. Encore remembers that at some point of the story, the Woolly Warrior will get her hands on a treasure map. This map, where did you find it?
It's from my mom. This map is a promise we made. Mom took me to a play one time. I remember in that play, the adventurers wanted to have their wishes come true. So with the Woolly Fairy's help, they set off to find the legendary relics. Just like in the story you told us. After watching it, I asked Mom all the time if these relics that could make wishes come true were real, and whether we could go look for them. But she was always busy with work as a ranger, so she wasn't home much. Then, one day, Mom gave me this treasure map. She said she got it from the Woolly Fairy, and it's for one of the hidden relics. She told me next time she came back from work, she would go relic hunting with me, and that I wouldn't have to be afraid of anything with her around. She wanted me to think hard about what I'd wish for most once we found all the relics. I thought of a lot of wishes. I wanted to have all the starflakes I could eat. Lots and lots of new toys.
Ying knew the story, and therefore knew that collecting the 3 relics would give her whatever wish she wanted. But something is wrong. The happy music has stopped. The excitable Encore has gone silent, and her attempts to speak are silenced before they even leave her lips. Her trademark smile has been replaced with a look of concern, and even Rover picks up on it, while glancing at her, cueing the player to notice. Encore isn't acting like herself, and Ying's words aren't carrying the excitement they should be. In a typical story, this would be the moment where the party receives a clear call to adventure, but the tone here is uneasy, subdued. Even now, at the very start of the quest, the game is quietly warning us, this journey might not go the way we expect. The feeling continues.
I want to see my mom again. There are so many things I want to tell her. The grown-ups all said that Mom was on a mission somewhere far, far away. But I felt like they were hiding something from me.
And then we have the introduction of dramatic irony, and a very strong use of it too, because not everyone is going to pick up on the subtle details. I've noticed that Wuthering Waves tend to communicate things implicitly and then explicitly straight after. We've all heard the idea of show don't tell, but that doesn't work for stupid people, so Wuthering Waves generally likes to use a different approach. Show, then tell. One of the most valuable skills a writer can develop is the ability to structure a story so that the audience feels exactly what they're meant to feel at exactly the right moment. Honestly, this might be the line between a good writer and a mediocre one. And in today's landscape, that kind of emotional structuring feels like a dying art. The scene moves us masterfully from a vague sense of unease to a much more pointed revelation. Ying's mother isn't on a mission at all, and the grown-ups are lying to her. Now, if you caught the subtle tone shift earlier, this moment hits differently. It confirms what you already suspected. But if you didn't pick up on the earlier vibe, and the story continued, you'd feel differently about the story from this point onwards. We've essentially created 2 groups of people that will experience the story in different ways. Detective stories make use of this idea to drive intrigue, but for a story like this, it's not what you want. You want the audience to get it, because it has a large effect on the rest of the story. So the story spells it out. It does mean that those subtle details are kind of redundant, so some stories don't bother with the small details. But they still serve a secondary purpose. They set the tone for the story. And from here, the story is firing on all cylinders. We know exactly what kind of journey this is now. A doomed quest hurtling towards a pointless end.
All said that Mom was on a mission somewhere far, far away. But I felt like they were hiding something from me. I knew Mom was never coming home. But I just wanted to see her again. And then I thought of her treasure map. I told Dad about the map, and he just hugged me and didn't say anything. But when I heard your story, I was thinking, if it's all true, then maybe, just maybe...
Then you should join our team. Encore knows that grown-ups always say that kind of thing just to be nice. Most of them are okay, just a little stuffy sometimes. Encore's heard a lot of them before, so Encore can tell what's real and what's not. Like this treasure map? It's 100% real, that's for sure.
And now... as a player, you are confused as all hell. They gave us that dramatic irony, and now it might not be irony at all. Remember, the moment the story took us to the Woolly Kingdom, all bets were off. We learned that every time Encore says something outlandish and lets her imagination get the best of her, it's us that is wrong, because she knows things we don't and is actually telling the truth. Common sense tells us that the map is fake, but what do we trust? Common sense, or the girl that seemingly knows how to defy it? And that's the true call to adventure. We aren't all that interested in finishing this children's tale, but rather we want to find the answer to that. And with that, Team Woolly is established, and you get to be the captain. Objective, find the relics. The first one we need to find is the Sword of Hope. But first, a message from my sponsor. Me! This isn't about liking or subscribing, but something else. If you're interested in seeing my blind reaction to these quests, or hearing me talk about other tangentially related things, have a look at my playlists. I'll be keeping all my long playthroughs in them, and I'll probably ramble about something or other while walking from location to location. While walking to the location this time, I talk about Jinzhou's world building and how much we really don't know. And then I talk about how dangerous tacit discords actually are, how the war in the North Thal Barrens might go. But they'll be unlisted on the channel because they're not going to be edited too much. I always believed that the devs were so thirsty, so hungry for a new start, that they abandoned Jinzhou as fast as possible. And to be fair, I think making that decision saved the game. So it's not exactly something wrong. Plus, Renaissance is something easy to market, right? Because it's completely new, you're showing off a lot of new stuff. That's the reason why they made that decision. But as a result, man, like, we don't know everything about Jinzhou beyond bits and pieces that we can scrape together, right? And you beat up some Tic Tacs and fluffy clouds appear for you to bounce on. Stick a fork in it, folks, the story is real. Because let's face it, this whole thing reeks of Encore. Fluffy clouds to bounce on to get the Sword of Courage? We're in the realm of pure fantasy. How much more convincing do you need? You open the box and Ying's face drops. The Sword of Courage is made of wood. And the wood doesn't even seem that great. It's kind of just splintery and sad. Huh. Maybe the story isn't real after all.
My dear little warrior, you found the first relic. Right now, you must be thinking, what a plain-looking sword. How could this ordinary wooden sword possibly be the legendary Sword of Courage? Don't feel disappointed just yet. Think back on what you've been through so far. All the challenges you faced along the way. The waves under your feet felt so high to you, and the treasure chest above seemed ever so far away. Yet still, you continued to climb the mountains, every step of the way, until you finally reached the peak. Your courage has been heard. And this seemingly ordinary wooden sword is the proof of your courage. Yeah, that's what it says in the letter. How did you know, Encore?
Did it also appear in other Woolly stories?
Clearly, the girl that can do the impossible knows more about the story than she lets on, but she refuses to disclose that. Instead, she enthusiastically opts to continue the story. So, what's the verdict, guys? Is the story real or fake? I have to watch another cutscene. Before I go, I do want to say, this is given 10 out of 10. I don't know why I had any doubts, man. Everything about this story has been on point. The dialogue has been on point. The cinematography has been on point. They really nailed it. They really did. I am so happy I get to play this quest again. It's a shame I can't delete my memories because that's the only thing that could make this better. Oh my god. Now, time to search the sand for the Shield of Hope. I would forgive the game for playing this part straight just to advance the plot. That's definitely what I'd do, because there isn't really much else to do. All the themes have been established and the plot doesn't really continue until we find the third relic. But that's not what they do, and this is a testament to the amount of refinement they did with this quest. The writers used this moment to reassert the key themes of the quest so far. As players, we're grappling with the mystery of whether the story is real or fake. But at this stage, that's all subtext, so the game takes the time to engage you with that a bit. The three of you search the beach for the Shield of Courage and turn up nothing. This would be the part where you wonder once more if the shield even exists. But I've got speedrun strats and elite platforming skills, the pacing never stood a chance. So, they do this with optional dialogue instead. If you interact with Ying during this part, she straight up asks you for your opinion. But your answer doesn't really matter. Rover takes it upon themselves to assert that it's possible. People get mad at choices like this, where your answer doesn't really change anything. But even in 1.0, when you're presented with choices that don't matter, they do, just not in the way that you think. Wuthering Ways uses these moments to relay information. Imagine you're someone that hasn't been paying attention to the quest thus far. Maybe you haven't caught the subtext about the story being real. If you stumble across this dialogue, where Ying explicitly asks you for your opinion, it doesn't really matter what your thoughts are because your attention is drawn to the question, and that's why the decision matters. If you speak to Encore during this part, the same thing plays out, but Encore is the one that said it's possible. And I can prove that, because when I played the quest to record the footage for this video, even I didn't catch the subtext until we got to this part. I sensed it, but it never seemed important enough to explicitly address until the quest brought it to the forefront. Yeah, okay, Interesting. I don't know how I feel about Ying having caught on to the fact from early, because I think it's more realistic this way. After all, Ying didn't believe in it in the first place. And then while we're telling her it's real, she still doesn't believe it, right? So, I mean, it's nice to have the doubts. Right now, you as a player, you're probably just being driven on once again by the absurdity of the whole situation. What do you mean it's real, bruh? But at the same time, you've seen Encore's domain expansion, and basically everything Encore does defies common sense. Let's be absolutely real here. So, I mean, you'd definitely be curious. And then, I found it. The Shield of Faith.
The loot we find is not part of my pay. It's all yours.
I've been trolled. Oh, but I remember it being by these rocks, so it's all good. They really... I can't believe that, brother. My ankles got swept. I can't believe it, bro. Either way, we found the Shield of Faith and the Sword of Courage. So definitely, without a doubt, you'd be invested in the story. Why? Because of the rule of 3. We're already 2 down. Surely you don't need OCD to want to see how this all ends. Not to mention that even Ying, who's had her doubts the entire time, has started to believe. It's time to wrap up the quest. And they do it with 3 compounding bombshells.
This is it.
This place, feels empty. There's nothing here.
It is now. But it used to be filled with irises. This is my mom's garden. She used to love flowers and would plant a lot of them when she wasn't busy.
Been going for a while, huh?
Before she left, she asked me to help look after it and said she'd come see it with me when she's back. I watered them every day, hoping they could bloom longer. But these flowers only bloom for a short time. They all withered in the end. Dad told me, "Don't be sad, sweetie. It's the natural cycle of life." I understood that, but it always reminds me of my promise to Mom. I miss her so much. Now I see this shield and sword are all treasures that Mom left me. And here, I think she probably wanted to make a wreath with me using those flowers.
Oh, Ying.
Thank you, Encore and Rover. Actually, when I saw Dad looking sad while holding the map, I had the feeling that Mom might have left this treasure map to play a game with me. Maybe it is like what the grown-ups say. The Gateway of Wishes doesn't exist. And I may never get to see her again, talk to her, and tell her how much I've grown. But Mom must have wanted to give me a surprise. To make me happy. I am happy. Because we managed to find all the treasures she left behind together. I'll definitely find a nice place to keep this sword and shield safe. I think we should end our adventure here. Thank you, Encore and Rover.
Our captain hasn't announced the end of our adventure yet.
Continue.
And you're thinking about leaving already? Well, okay then. Let's call it a day right here. There's some stuff I need to wrap my head around too. I remember you asked me about the ending of The Woolly Warrior, right? Even though we finished finding the relics, Team Woolly's adventure goes on. There's still plenty of stories to tell. Oh, I know! How about you come to Encore's story session tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow? You mean right here?
Yeah, if you want to find out what happens to Team Woolly, come over and listen to the rest of the story. Be there or be square.
Okay then. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep! See you tomorrow, Ying.
I'll stop there. To give myself a break before the next scene. So, that right there is a very, very sad scene. And there are many reasons for that. I've always wondered why it hits so hard. I think first of all, it's the adult nature of the story with, but kids are the main characters, right? I went ahead and looked at many reactions to not just that scene, but this story in general. And the people it hits most are the people that have lost someone before, There was definitely a bit of self-insert going on here, I think, from the writer to get the story this on point. But from a cinematography perspective, it's I'll say this now, a scene like this would never work in Genshin. The cinematography of it, the constantly changing facial expressions along with the camera angles, and the fact that that Ying is holding the map in her hands the whole time. Or was that the shield she was holding? I'm pretty sure it was the map. Like, it all adds up, right? I mean, you could say that, yeah. Yeah, you could say that that definitely helps, but I think for me, well, okay, the main thing from a cinematography perspective that actually hurts, I think, and this is what hurt me the most, is the fact that Ying says all of that while smiling, man. Like, they gave her so much character just through her actions and her facial expression, right? She was smiling while she was saying, you know, while she was recounting her story and while she was upset. And then she finally gets upset because she was trying to hold it in, right? And then she doesn't want us to see her upset, right? So she covers her eyes with her sleeve, right? So you don't see it. And then after that, she... Oh, let me make sure I remember. I think she still... No, her facial expression goes back to happy. It was sad, actually, when she was telling the facial expressions, but she covered it with her sleeve, right? And then it goes back to happy, and then she says, thank you, like, you guys helped me out, appreciate it, you know? And that the choice of dialogue there was huge, because it goes to further show that repressed pain, right? And the thing is, it was like that the whole time. Ying was onto the fact, like, Encore was trying to convince her the whole time that this story was real. And Ying wasn't buying it for a second, I'll be honest. And she finally bought it when she saw the shield. She's like, well, you know what, that's 2 out of 3, we can finish this. And even that hope got dashed, right? Which leads on to the number one reason why that scene is so sad. The number one reason is that it's used the story structure against you to make it hit twice as hard. As you'd expect for a story like this, we have it's the hero structure, right? We have the call to action, right? Thanks, Cycloid. I'll take it from here. He's right. The story takes the shape of a 3-act structure, which is made of 3 parts: a beginning, middle, and end. To summarize it briefly, at the beginning of the story, there needs to be some sort of inciting incident. In the middle, tension builds, obstacles appear, and the characters are tested. Then at the end, there is a climax, the hero triumphs, and then there is a resolution to the problem. So many stories follow this structure. It's kind of stereotypical, but that's expected. So let's look at how that applies to the story so far. The inciting incident is Ying showing us the map and explaining the story. The middle part, where the tension builds, is our search for the relics. So all that's left is for us to get the relics, go to the Gateway of Wishes, and get Ying her wish. But that's not what happened. We had the first 2 parts, and then the story face planted. Instead of a climax, we got left on edge. And there is no resolution to be found. The story went through great pains to make us believe it was coming. They showed us that Encore was a kid that could do the impossible, and they showed us that Ying's mother took great pains to construct the story, and she even made a platforming challenge. They even got Ying on our side, so the story must be real, right? Where's the resolution? There isn't one. They sold us a dream and then snatched it from us, and it was wonderfully devastating. And what makes this even more impressive is how every single moment in the quest was in service of this payoff. There's not one wasted scene, not one wasted line of dialogue. Every moment either planted doubt or legitimized the story. Every emotional beat and every tonal shift was part of a large, cohesive plan. And that level of refinement, that complete lack of filler, is what earns this story its 10 out of 10 from me. I don't have any qualms or complaints to levy so far, and I've searched God knows how many times. But wait, didn't I say there were more bombshells? The second one just serves to add insult to injury. Encore never believed in the story.
Brought us the treasure map? Ying said she'd already forgotten what most of the play was about. All she could remember was that the hero had been searching for a legendary treasure to make their wishes come true. Ha! I knew straight away that the treasure map wasn't for the Woolly Warrior's sword.
Cooked, man. So, oh, dude, so much is happening right here. Because remember how I said at the beginning that the absurdity of the quest is what's driving you forward? Now the quest, all of a sudden, all at once, is just grounded in reality. You're just being hit with bomb after bomb, man. And ironically, it's just funny because you're questioning from the beginning, right? The game forces you to stop and then just hits you, man. I think, and even Encore, because keep in mind, the whole thing started with you going into Encore's domain expansion, right? So from that point, like, all the rules were out the window as far as Encore was concerned, because she's not a normal person. She's weird. She said she would invite you into a story, and then you went into the story, right? That's some stupidness. So you're under the impression, I mean, your mind is already malleable at that stage, right? You're all ready to believe, you know what, fuck it, okay? This is absurd, but Encore's a magical character with fairy tale creatures that follow her around. So hearing bomb after bomb, hearing her say, yeah, actually, I knew this thing wasn't real from the beginning, but I forced her to go through with it anyway. Bruh, just that hope, man. It just keeps getting dashed. It's wonderfully devastating. Finally, the last bombshell is that this play was a gift from Encore's mum, which means she is no better than Ying. We watch a play that takes all of Encore's imagination and grounds it in reality. The Woolly Warrior actually represents Encore, and the clue for this was laid bare at the very beginning. Encore told stories of other characters too. One was of a golden-eyed cat, and one was of a grey bird. But the golden-eyed cat was Rover, and the grey bird was Yang Yang. Encore models her characters after real people, so the Woolly Warrior was always going to represent someone. And if you caught that detail in the beginning, you would have figured out Encore's backstory immediately. But because of how they timed it, that little detail serves to be a bit of foreshadowing, and that is probably the most subtle bit of foreshadowing this game has ever seen. Even small things like that mattered in the end. And that was just an introduction that set the scene for the beginning of the quest. Every single line of dialogue has a payoff in this quest, and that level of writing frustrates me because I know it's not something I can pull off right now, and that is a testament to the writers. Seriously, it's a 10 out of 10. Nothing else in the game has come close since. Encore continues to ground the quest in reality piece by piece. In the story, the Woolly Warrior climbed a mountain to get the Sword of Courage. We did too, except our mountain was a staircase of clouds. But originally, that mountain was a ladder leading to a toy box on the shelf. We searched the beach for the Shield of Faith, and as did the Woolly Warrior, but in reality, that Shield of Faith was just a jar of raspberry candy, hidden in a house. And the Wreath of Hope? Who knows? Encore never got to that part either, because her mum died of illness, and there was no wish, no miracle, and no magical gateway to stop that. Encore isn't even her real name. It's a nickname given to her because her mother was an actor. At the beginning of the quest, we went into a story, and when we emerged, Encore became this supernatural girl that could do the impossible. But now we've had that story told to us, Encore is just a girl that went through something unimaginably painful, and even she was powerless to stop it. So what could she possibly do for Ying? And with that, hope is lost. There is no more wonder to be found. Encore isn't magic, the story was never real, and the Gateway of Wishes never existed. But this time we have the proof. And everything we believed in, and everything the characters believed in, was just make-believe. Magic is dead. And in its place, we have something more real. Rover and Encore's will to see the story completed. And resonance abilities, of course. Rover comes up with the idea of using Encore's resonance ability to finish the story. You'll notice that I haven't spoken much about Rover in this quest, and it's for a very simple reason. This is the first time Rover has actually done anything to impact the plot, and this is the role Rover usually tends to play. In stories of heroes and villains, there are two types of plot that tend to be the most effective. The first is easy. The villain succeeds with their plot, and the hero does their best to undo it. And the second one is a bit more situational. The villain is right about to succeed, but the hero shows up at the last second to rescue victory from the jaws of defeat. This second structure requires multiple weaker heroes to have a crack at the villain before the strong one shows up. Regardless, whenever you see a story involving a beacon of hope, it's usually because the story is following this second structure. And in Wuthering Waves, Rover is that beacon of hope. And when hope was lost in this story, Rover was finally activated. But that is a topic for another video. We have a story to finish. But there really isn't anything else to analyze here. The story is a straight shot from here to the end. We want to finish the story for Ying, so we need to make a wreath of hope. So we ask Verena to make it for us, since she can make flowers with her forte. Everyone puts their own flower on the wreath, but the flower Ying wants isn't in season, so we enter Encore's domain expansion to get it. And once the wreath is completed, we get to the Gateway of Wishes, but Encore's domain expansion is so powerful she was actually able to manifest the Gateway of Wishes and revive Ying's mother and her own mother for a time. Yay. There is one shift in dynamic though, because for the entire quest we were being driven forward by curiosity surrounding whether the story is real or fake, just like Ying was. But now we're Encore. We know the story is fake, but we're continuing anyway in hopes that a happy ending will come from it. And I suppose the moral of the story is believe in the impossible, because you never know what the future might hold. And that was the moral of the Shorekeeper quest, and that was the moral of the Cartethia quest. And that is the moral of the entire game. I always planned to cover this story later down the line. I didn't want my first video to be a perfect score. I didn't want it to seem like I was blindly praising the first quest I touched. But circumstances made this the first one, and honestly, I'm glad they did. Because this quest deserves the recognition. Every single scene in Encore's companion quest has a payoff. From the moment we enter the Woolly Kingdom, the game positions Encore as something magical. Not just for show, but to build tension about whether the story is real or not. Even that early scene where the kids recall her past stories, that was subtle foreshadowing for the later reveal that the Woody Warrior is Encore herself. Nothing is wasted. Ying is used to create dramatic irony, gameplay mechanics reinforce the narrative themes, optional dialogue deepens the central question without ever slowing things down, and the writing constantly plays with your expectations and emotions. Every line is doing something, either planting doubt or legitimizing the story, and it's doing it with precision. The character writing is heartfelt and believable. The facial expressions and subtle animations add layers of meaning that most games wouldn't even attempt. The music is emotionally grounded and thematically consistent. And that level of craft is rare, even for Wuthering Waves. This quest goes above and beyond, and I've gone over it again and again trying to find a flaw, some weak link, some missed opportunity, but I keep coming up short. And as a player, as a critic, and as a writer, I have no choice but to celebrate what the team achieved here. That is why I'm giving the quest a 10 out of 10. If there's something you didn't like, I genuinely want to hear it. The floor's open, but from where I'm standing, this is as close to perfect storytelling as it gets in this genre. But that's just my opinion, and with that, I'm signing out.